my eye here. I made a note about intuition. When we are all fully connected to ourselves and to others through ourselves in pure presence on every level, and attuned to not just the senses of sight and sound, touch and taste and smell, but to our feelings, then that's what we call intuition. And the more present you are, the more intuitive you are. And that's why intuition resides at the third eye chakra. So, okay, now dotted that I, we're done with that. And remember, we talked about causal, astral, and physical. So we are.
What did we say about the causal, astral, and physical? Just review what we said about it.
We are three bodies of being, like nesting eggs, those little Russian nesting dolls. Remember, if I believe that we are vibrational beings in a vibrational world, and so, but yet I look like solid form. I look like, this Kim is contained inside, this body. And then there's blank space between us. And then, somebody else is contained within their body. Then what I want to tell you is that this is simply density of vibration. And the density of vibration that presents as, Kim Tang is actually what I'm going to call thought identification. And thought identification is something that you and I have talked about, but it's also thought identification combined with those balances of energies of masculine, feminine, we could call it yin and yang. And that is what presents as density and form. And that is what we would call through the left hemisphere, egoic identification of self as separate, or call it your humanity. And so that is the source. Remember when we talked about yoga and I said it's not actually body centric, it's not even spine centric, it's mind centric. It starts with that thought identification. And that's just this personality as it presents in form in this incarnation. This conversation could quite literally expand to include things like precognitive agreements, but then that would be a continuation of before this life and then maybe even after. So you have an idea of who it is that you think you are. And that idea was bestowed upon you in many ways. And that's the way that we don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. You take that idea of who you are with your combination of experiences that you've navigated through free will, by the way, to gain a historical account of what will be based on what has been. And that's the way that most people navigate the terrain. And so in the shortest form that I can give you, because if we start this conversation now, it'll be two or 3 or 4 hours. So let's make it concise, and then we'll close and then we'll have another one. In the shortest form, we start with thought identification, precognitive agreements, and taking what I'm going to call some spiritual responsibility for circumstances. And then we start to navigate the terrain with some increased awareness of that information that we gather through that work. And we start to be more authentic to our truth and care about how we feel and pay more attention and, understand why it matters that we navigate with more consciousness. So, and, in the way of practices, what do you do in the way of action? There are peaceful practices that involve nature and connecting to the earth. There are breathwork and meditation practices, yoga practices, servitude practices. These are all the 8 limbs of yoga. I mean, the answer to how do we open our energy centers and be our highest versions of ourselves, all of those answers are the 8 limbs of yoga, the do's and the don'ts, right? Everything.